Across the country, a tidal wave of people is flooding the streets, their voices rising in unison as they hold up bold, unmistakable signs that read, "No Kings." From the heart of bustling cities to the quiet corners of small towns, Americans from all walks of life are coming together, united by a single urgent message. So what's really happening here? Why are so many people, from students to seniors, rallying together right now, standing shoulder to shoulder in protest against President Trump's administration? Let's break it down and see what's fueling this unprecedented wave of activism. First off, the No Kings movement isn't just a single organization or a handful of activists. It's a massive, sprawling coalition. Imagine groups like the ACLU, Move On, Greenpeace, teachers' unions, and countless grassroots organizations, all fired up and working together. They're united by a shared outrage over what they call authoritarian excesses, abuses of power, and a growing disregard for the democratic norms that have long defined the country. Their message is simple, but powerful. In America, nobody is above the law. We have no kings here, no rulers who stand above the people. The law is supposed to be the great equalizer, and these protesters are determined to remind the nation of that core principle. So what sparked this fire? The answer lies in President Trump's actions since returning to office this year. His administration's decisions have sent shockwaves through the country, igniting a sense of urgency and resistance that's impossible to ignore. Protesters are especially outraged over a sweeping crackdown on undocumented immigrants. Reports have surfaced of masked federal agents detaining people in cities and towns across the nation, often without clear explanation or due process. For many, these scenes evoke memories of darker times in history, fueling fears that basic rights are under threat. There's also the controversial federal takeover of local police forces, starting in Washington, D.C., but with clear attempts to expand this control into other cities. Critics say this move undermines local authority and threatens the balance of power that's supposed to keep any one branch of government from becoming too powerful. Add to that a wave of deep cuts to healthcare, education, and environmental protections, issues that touch the lives of millions. On top of it all, there are growing concerns about election interference, voting rights, and the very future of American democracy. For many, it feels like the foundations of the country are being shaken. And then there's the kicker: President Trump's public hints about seeking a third term in office, openly talking as if he's entitled to rule beyond the limits set by the Constitution. To many, this sounds less like democracy and more like monarchy. That's why the chant, "No Kings," has become the rallying cry of the movement. The movement really exploded back in June after Trump's extravagant birthday military parade in Washington, D.C. Critics saw the tanks, soldiers, and spectacle as less a celebration and more a show of power, a kind of coronation, rather than a democratic event. That moment galvanized people across the country, turning simmering frustration into full-blown protest. Since then, the protests have only grown larger and more determined. On October 18th, millions of Americans turned out from New York to Los Angeles in cities, suburbs, and rural communities alike. This nationwide effort, known as the 5501 movement, marked one of the largest coordinated demonstrations in recent memory, showing just how widespread the demand for accountability has become. But not everyone's on board. Trump supporters have staged their own counter-protests, calling the demonstrations un-American and accusing the movement of trying to undermine the presidency. In some states, like Texas, officials have even deployed the National Guard, citing fears of unrest and potential violence. The country feels more divided than ever. And what about the White House? Officials there have largely brushed off the protests, dismissing reporters' questions, and insisting that the demonstrations are just political theater. Their message, in essence, is, "Who cares?" But clearly, millions of Americans do care. The No Kings protests are about more than just one president. They're about drawing a line in the sand, standing up for democracy, for checks and balances, and for the fundamental idea that presidents aren't monarchs. They're public servants, accountable to the people. So the next time you see crowds chanting in the streets, remember, it's not just noise. It's a powerful message echoing through the heart of the nation. In America, no one wears the crown, and the people will always have the final say.